Welcome back, everyone. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed your lunch and got a chance to talk to some of the solution providers in the Discovery Lounge. I am really excited to introduce this next session. So if you've ever ordered from Gopuff, you've probably been wowed by the convenience of their offering and, of course, that rapid delivery. As the instant commerce leader, Gopuff is transforming commerce and reshaping consumer expectations to deliver what they want in just 30 minutes. Today, we're pleased to have them join us to hear how Instant is going to change the retail and e-commerce landscape and how they see the ecosystem evolving in response to this new offering. So it is with great pleasure that I welcome Rafael Ilishayev, co-founder and co-CEO of Gopuff, and moderator Julie Hyman, anchor at Yahoo Finance.
Hi, everybody. Welcome, Rafael. Thanks for being here. Why don't we start by asking how many of you, we're going to put you on the spot a little bit, how many of you have used Gopuff? Show of hands? Okay. So decent penetration, opportunity, perhaps, for you to win some people over today. So first of all...
I'll share a referral code with everyone.
Let's talk about Instant, sort of the concept of Instant first. And you guys started this company, what, in 2012?
2013.
2013. So talk to me about what Instant means and how it has changed since you started the company.
Yeah, Julie, what I'll tell you is, even taking it a step back, if we think about commerce and the evolution of commerce, we started with traditional brick and mortar retail. And then the internet changed everything, right? You could get a couple things shipped to you in a week or 2 weeks, and then Amazon changed everything again, right? They standardized 2-day ship and 1-day ship. We believe Instant, and Instant doesn't mean everything, right? We're not the everything store, we're not everything for everyone. But Instant is the next iteration of 1-day and 2-day ship. Consumers are only getting busier and busier, and they want things as fast as humanly possible, but more even importantly than the speed, they want it consistently fast. So customers want things in a 27, 28, 30-minute average delivery time with a small deviation in time than something that's really fast and then really slow. So the evolution for us and what we really learned over the years is keep Instant very consistent for customers, and customers will continue to really come back.
And when you say it's not for everything, so what is it for? I guess not just what is it for, who is it for, in what example is it for, and if somebody does Instant once, are they then doing it all the time? So what's the sort of specific use case here?
So I'll answer backwards. By the time someone gets their third order on Gopuff, they're a Gopuff customer for life. And it's getting a person to really just try the product. They usually come for a very specific use case. I want some ice cream, or I need paper towels, or I need some cooking supplies, and they discover the kind of full breadth of what Gopuff has to offer. And when I mean not being the everything store, right, 15%, generally inside traditional retail, 15% of SKUs drive the mass majority of sales. So we're not gonna have 10 or 15 or 20 SKUs of peanut butter. We're gonna have the 1 or 2 that are really important for customers and kind of really cap it on there. So we'll have the most important things that people need for everyday life and just really focus and double down on that. I think another really important thing to mention about Gopuff on the merchandising side is we're probably the most local global business. And what I mean by that is if you look at it at a micro fulfillment center basis, right? Each one of our buildings that is delivering to customers, the assortment is so curated to the customers within that community that we're able to really have a super local feel alongside of like a really strong global presence.
And you own that whole process. So that might differentiate you, for example, from an instant delivery place where I'm a shopper and I go to a store and buy the thing and deliver it to the person. You guys own the store, effectively.
Yeah, that's right. So delivery in general, instant delivery, is split up into 2 categories, right? The third-party category, folks that go to the store, pick up from the store and deliver, and then the first-party category that own the vertical integration in the entire supply chain. Now, the general difference is we monetize our products, not people, right? So the third-party marketplaces are monetizing the delivery driver, charging an excess service fee or delivery fee, and then the difference between what they give to the driver and what they keep for themselves is, is their margin. Our entire gross margin is in the products that we sell. Our delivery fees are passed through our driver. We make no economics on that. And as a byproduct, you just build a better, more fiscally responsible business that also happens to be better for the customer. So if you look at our first 3 years, we were free cash flow positive, right? We hadn't raised any money until year 3 of the business. And we're now kind of situated better than ever before, right? I think we're going to talk a little about the economy, but we're going to go through quite a few rough patches in the coming quarters. Gopuff is really well situated to handle that, right? We're making $5 in profit every order we deliver on a consolidated basis, and we're going to continue to kind of grow market share while still establishing really, really strong economics.
So you're going to continue to grow market share. What is the market for instant? Because I imagine it's still a relatively new market, right? People getting used to getting this stuff very quickly. So what is the market potential?
Yep. So business is 9 years old. We've now done consolidated more than $2 billion in revenue last year. This year will be a larger year than that. And if you look at our growth, just kind of year over year, right? We've done more revenue in the first 5 months in 2022 than we did the entirety of 2020. And a lot of conversations around what happens post-pandemic, the data kind of quenches all of those arguments, right? We've grown more in the last year than we did in the largest growth of our year, which is during the pandemic. And we kind of continue to see consumers buy into instant more and more. Now, there's sectors of the business that retail is really, really important for us, specifically around alcohol. So for anyone that doesn't know the alcohol industry in the US, it takes somewhere between 6 months and 4 years to acquire a single liquor license. We are now one of the largest liquor license holders in the US. We own the largest liquor business in California called BevMo, largest liquor business in the state of Kentucky called Liquor Barn. And we bought those retail businesses not because they have a really amazing retail presence, right? That was a kind of an added benefit because of the liquor licenses that they presented. So the combination of that online and offline presence with those liquor licenses gives a really, really powerful moat for this business.
So when you look at the competitive landscape, how do you think about your competition? Is it other instant delivery? Is it the grocery store and the liquor store that people walk into in the corner bodega? Is it something like Amazon? How do you think about what the potential here is for you and who you're up against?
Yep. So Gopuff spent a lot of years nailing the business model before scaling it, right? I mentioned before, we didn't raise money for 3 years. We figured out profitability early. And a lot of players that have come into this instant delivery market kind of are doing the opposite, right? They're scaling the business and then we'll figure out economics at some point in the very far future. And that's just a recipe for disaster, right? If you don't prove out the technology inside of the 4 walls you're building, you don't really scale the consumer app, you don't figure out your gross margin, and you don't have operational excellence, a business that's supposed to be very profitable becomes very unprofitable. And that's kind of what we're seeing happen with a lot of the instant delivery players on a global scale today, right? In the last 3 months, I think 9 of them have went bankrupt. That trend is going to continue to happen over the next 2 quarters. I think what we're challenging right now with our biggest competitor is like, what's inside of a consumer's mind? Do I go to the store and get something from the store, or do I get it delivered from Gopuff? And sometimes, the two don't compete against each other. What we see a lot of times in different segments of categories that we enter is that we actually grow the overall consumption of that product. Like we see within the ice cream sector, as an example, when we enter a market, people actually consume more ice cream. We're not taking share away from your traditional players.
I don't know, should we be thanking you for that or no?
There's a lot of healthy ice cream out there now. So
True. Healthier.
Healthier, yeah. It's still the battle for what's inside the consumer's mind, and it's a number of things, right? It's making sure you're consistent with the customer, you have the right assortment for your customer, and you're not positioning your price point something that's expensive. Gopuff is a flat $3, and it's very much in line from a pricing perspective of what you would see in the store.
So 5 years from now, what percentage of consumers are buying instant versus, buying, say, from an Amazon or going physically to a store? And what kinds of things are they buying from a Gopuff versus those others?
So if you asked me, 9 years ago, are you going to be an authority in the baby category or the pet category or grocery for that matter, I would say you're wrong. You're insane, right? We're fixing this convenience store category. We weren't even in alcohol. So I think the categories that Gopuff is going to continue to enter into, maybe even a surprise for me, right? Because I never imagined we would be such an authority in the categories that we play in. But we've launched this kitchens business. We're an authority in over-the-counter now, like I mentioned, pet and baby. We're going to continue to enter the categories that our customers want most. We enter categories and get products predominantly through failed search results. So folks will get onto the app, they'll search for something, they won't get a result, they'll produce a failure, and then as a byproduct, our merchants have more data on what areas do we have to lean into harder. So I think the consumer is getting more instant, not less instant. If you look at the last 9 years, we haven't had a year with less than triple-digit year-over-year growth, and we've done it in a unit economic profitable way.
Alcohol is the biggest category, right?
It's one of the
biggest. In terms of volume. And then you mentioned baby, which has grown quickly, over the counter, which is, so the newest categories, because it seems like there's demand for them, are growing quite quickly.
Yeah. I mean, when
you add a category, do you add it everywhere at once?
It depends.
Okay.
So if it's more of a niche, we'll test it. If it's something like, people have kids, so the baby category has kind of broad applications, so we added that everywhere.
Gotcha. And you're seeing those grow quickly where you do add them?
Yeah. So when we had our shortage on baby formula, Gopuff was one of the only companies to have baby formula in stock. I think the baby category grew like 6,500% year over year that month. So it was something like truly insane. That's a massive outlier.
Right.
But normally you're seeing oversized growth in the new categories simply because they're growing on a smaller base, but they're outgrowing the more kind of traditional Gopuff categories. Your snacks, drinks, frozen, ice cream.
Let's do a little digression on baby formula, because we were talking about this before the session. I thought it was really interesting, and then we'll go economy. How did you get baby formula when so many places did not get it?
So you have to kind of instill in your leaders this CEO entrepreneurial mindset. So many folks that we were talking to that were experiencing the same shortage that we were experiencing said, our supply chain doesn't have baby formula, so we're just going to stop there. Our distributor's not carrying it anymore, so we're going to just stop and wait until distributor has it, or they woke up 3 or 4 weeks later and said, we need to fix it. Without even me giving direction, I think it's a testament to the culture that's been built at Gopuff. The merchants came in all together and said, we're going to find every possible way in every possible channel, both domestically through startups that might not have such a big brand, and internationally in markets where there was an excess of baby formula, and import and bring it to the US. And as a byproduct of that, we had very, very minimal out of stock across a network. And I think our peak, the out of stock was 9%, right? Versus, kind of traditional brick and mortar was like 60, 70%. And it goes down to, a lot of things could be automated. That portion of your business can't be, right? It's very, very human, and it's a self-starter mentality that leads into something really special, ultimately gains consumer trust.
And of the people who first bought baby formula during the shortage, how many customers then kept on buying baby formula from you even when they could get it other places or bought other stuff from you?
Yeah, the important note for us is not for them to even come back and continue to buy baby formula, but them to discover the magic of Gopuff and start buying all their immediate everyday needs from Gopuff. So one of the opportunities we see is that a customer that comes in and shops from 3 or more categories in their first order will spend $700 more that year, right? So we want to get consumers right off the get-go or immediately after into the second order to kind of discover all of Gopuff's breadth of assortment. So a lot of personalization, a lot of work, a lot of predictive tech that we built inside of the consumer app to really make it as seamless as possible for people to discover all those items.
All right, let's talk economy, because this is something I'm talking about all day long. I'm watching the markets.
Me and you both.
In my job, yeah. I'm sure you guys all are too. Nobody in this room is not paying higher prices right now, right? And seeing how that is affecting the household budget. So how's that affecting customers? How's it affecting what they're buying, how much they're buying, et cetera?
Yeah. So the one thing, a couple tenets that we have, we've, for the first time ever, raised our delivery fee, right? Where delivery fee has been a consistent $2 for 8 years. And for the first time ever, we raised it for $3, and that is essentially to make sure our drivers are getting a better wage given kind of the inflation environment of the world. On the price point of the items, we're not disproportionately increasing prices based on the increases that we're getting. So we're getting kickbacks from the large CPGs, we're not increasing the prices at all. If massive CPGs are increasing prices and there's no kickbacks, we're passing off that increase to the customer, not 1 penny more, not 1 penny less. So proportionally to what we're seeing an increase on COGS. What I'll say about the economy as a whole, right, is this is going to get a whole lot worse before it gets better. I'm sure a lot of folks have been talking about that. My co-founder, Yakir, predicted this in January, a lot before I believed him that this is going to happen. But he predicted this, and as a byproduct of that, we took a couple of bold steps, right? We're the last company in 2021 to raise money, first company in 2022 to do a reorg. And from a human basis, as terrible as that is, companies and CEOs that are not squarely focused on two things, which is their customer and the financial health of their company, won't exist next year. That's just the honest truth. And folks that are focused on that and are in touch with reality and what's going to happen over the next 2 quarters will be, right? We're down, I think, 23 or 24% from our high in January. There in 2008, we were down 59%. So if this is just as bad, we're halfway there.
And so the reorg that you guys did, you closed some of your mini fulfillment centers, right? Did you let people go also?
So on the field side, we really didn't let anyone go. This was more on field management, kind of corporate work, different layers that we created within the organization. So it isn't so much like as a layoff as just reorganizing and removing layers from the org altogether. So anyone that existed within that layer, we wanted to get as scrappy and as close to the customer as possible. So our leaders were less steps removed from the end customer. And again, the reality of that is this is kind of like what we went through our first 3 years of Gopuff, right? We never lived through a recession as CEOs. I think Yakir and I went through something even a little bit harder than that, right? We didn't have any investment dollars. We were forced to operate a free cash flow business. If we didn't, then we went bankrupt the next month. We physically lived in warehouses for many years. That was our home. And that was the birth and infancy of this business. So what we're going through right now is kind of a back to basics for Yakir and I. What's hard is for a generation of employees that hasn't seen this and has never seen what tough times look like, because we've been going through a pretty hefty bull run for the last 13 years. So it's just educating folks and being really, really honest about the reality of the situation, the fact that it's probably going to get a bit worse before it gets better.
And do you feel like you're good where you are now? Are you prepared for that getting worse? Or do you feel like you might have to make more changes at some point depending on how things go?
I mean, listen, we're ruthlessly prioritizing today, right? We're removing lines of business that definitely made sense 7 or 8 months ago. But, their path to profitability is 2, 3, 4 years. And, doesn't mean that we're not going to do that, but we'll check back on it next year, right? So we're looking at all aspects of the business, every area in the business, and saying, is this something that we need today? Is this supporting our profitable core? Because if you look at on a cohort basis, right, all of our markets that are launched before 2018 are producing 15% EBITDA margins, fully baked. So you have your core that's very, very profitable. That's your cash cow. You have your newer markets that are becoming profitable. So as the cohort ages, that cohort becomes more and more profitable. So it's like, do you add additional lines of business that will produce profit, but many years out? Or do you focus on your core, kind of get back to free cash flow, and then re-enter those growth opportunities, but cash losing opportunities maybe a year and a half from now?
And also, speaking of the changing environment, I imagine it's also very different in terms of raising funds for the business when you need to do so. We're finally, the private market seems sort of late to retrenching after the public market. So what does that look like? I mean, and I don't know what the public market eventual evolution looks like for you, and if what we're seeing right now changes that too.
Yeah, I think, unfortunately, there's some people that are a little bit out of touch with reality, right? They have 5, 6, 7 months of cash left and operating like it's okay, right? And, I'll be able to raise money in 2 quarters, right? I don't see a practical world where that's going to happen. So I think every single CEO needs to look at their balance sheet and say, this is what I have. This is what I have to work with, not rely on any outside capital, and then operate the business accordingly. I think, fortunately for us, we built up a really healthy balance sheet. We have $2 billion of cash in the bank, and it allows us to have a lot of flexibility and a lot of leverage. That being said, right, that's kind of been our story for the last 9 years, right? We never needed investors. We positioned the business to always have a maximum amount of flexibility. And as a byproduct of that, we're really prepared for what's to come. And I think founders are, in general, a little bit more paranoid in nature. And Yakir and I tend to overcorrect a little bit sometimes, but rather be overprepared and wrong than underprepared and, disaster scenarios happening.
Yeah. And we're out of time, but that was also my coy way of asking if an IPO is in the future, which seems insane to ask while we're in a bear market, but I'm going to ask you anyway.
Yeah, I think Gopuff will be a public company one day. The public markets are destroyed right now. I think that's the best way to put it, right? A lot of volatility. So we're going to, we have the ultimate flexibility to wait. We have enough cash to wait for years. So when the markets start to rebound and start to look better, we'll obviously examine that situation and prepare ourselves for what next steps look like.
That's a good spot to be in right now. We'll end on that note. Rafael, thank you so much. Really
Thank you.
appreciate it. Thank you all.